Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company on the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical on a Hot Take Friday. Of course, we are on YouTube at Stillman & Co. Like and subscribe. And again, tell all your friends, like and subscribe. You know, I haven't really thought about this the way that I feel like everybody else does. But, I mean, at the end of the day, subscribing to the channel is free, but liking the show is free. And we get 1,500, 2,000 viewers on YouTube per show. And I'm like, you all need to go ahead and you all need to just like it. And there you go. So again, like and subscribe, although most of you guys do that on a consistent basis. We have a loaded show today here on the program. Matt Overton, former Cowboys, former Titans, former Dolphins, former Charger, former Colts, long snapper, former Pro Bowl long snapper. He's going to join us. He played for Mike McCarthy in Dallas. And that's where I want to start today. And I'm very, by the way, excited. I've been friends with Matt Overton for a long time, and I've been on his show in the past, so glad to have him coming on in just a little bit. So let's start on the big, both literally and figuratively, interview of the weekend. Big Mike McCarthy will interview with the Titans this weekend. And I've been listening to what everybody said. Again, the Titans Twitter bros, they just love Mike McDaniel. I hear a lot of people who want Robert Saleh to be the next head coach, or in the case of Easton Freeze, who was on the program yesterday, and he loves Mike McDaniel. He thinks it will be Robert Saleh. I know there's a big contingency out there. People love Chris Shula. I know there are some people out there that hate Matt Nagy, but some people that are like, yeah, you know, Matt Nagy, he's not that bad. I know all of you wanted John Harbaugh when he was out there, and I get it. I would have probably taken John Harbaugh too. But yet, when it comes to Big Mike, it feels like every conversation includes a little discussion about Big Mike, but not a ton of discussion about Big Mike. And I'm trying to figure out why there isn't more buzz surrounding Mike McCarthy, not just with the Titans, but Mike McCarthy in general. Now, let me start by saying this. I do not know Mike McCarthy from a jar of Vicks, just like I don't really know any of these guys. All I know about Mike McCarthy is the same stuff that you know about Mike McCarthy. It's the same stuff I've seen on TV about Mike McCarthy, which is probably the same stuff you've seen on TV about Mike McCarthy. And let me say, Mike McCarthy would not be my first choice if you said, Jared, you just have to pick one of these guys right now without interviewing them and without knowing them. Because I don't know these people. My first choice would be Arthur Smith, based off the fact that I watched Arthur coach the Titans offense, and it was a thing of true beauty. And so I know he knows Amy, and I know Arthur just a tiny bit, and I think Arthur's a smart guy, and I think Arthur's a good coach. And I've talked to a lot of people that know Arthur that just would bang the table for Arthur. So I'll be honest with you. My first choice would be Arthur Smith. And I will also tell you that last year at the Super Bowl, I had Mike Florio on my program. And I said to Mike Florio, I go, if Chad Brinker's calling the shots, which at the time, Chad Brinker was, I said, is Mike McCarthy warming up in the bullpen as far as Brian Callahan is concerned? And Florio kind of looked at me with a smirk. And he said something along the lines of, you know, sometimes when you work with somebody in your past, that's the kind of person that you don't want to hire. And so I just got the vibe from the little smirk in the way Florio answered the question that maybe word out of Green Bay was not good when it came to Big Mike. But I will say this, when it comes to McCarthy, I know that Mike McCarthy is not a complete and total Disaster. I know he's not some clueless asshole who doesn't know how to coach. And I know this because I watched Mike McCarthy coach, again, on the periphery for 18 seasons. And it's not like his 18 seasons in the NFL in Green Bay nor Dallas were just total disasters. Dave Campo, who was the head coach of the Cowboys for 3 years and went 5-11 for those 3 years, he was a disaster. Adam Gase with the Jets was a disaster. Brian Callahan with the Titans was a disaster. Mike McCarthy has won 60% of his games. He won 58% of the time in Dallas, and that was with 2 seasons in which Dak got hurt. Dak averaged over his entire tenure in Dallas 12 games a year due to injury. I'd say winning 58% of the time is pretty good, but when Dak is playing 66% of the time and you win 58% of the time, I'd say that's pretty fucking good, eh? And then people, when it comes to knocking Mike McCarthy, and I'm not saying you people are doing this, but I'm saying if you were to knock Mike McCarthy, people say things like, well, Jared, he only won 1 Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Yeah? Well, Tony Dungy won 1 Super Bowl with Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. Sean Payton won 1 Super Bowl with Drew Brees in New Orleans. Mike Holmgren won 1 Super Bowl with Brett Favre. Not everybody is Brady and Belichick or Montana and Walsh or Andy Reid and Mahomes. Matt LaFleur, who, again, you people drop your pants when it comes to wanting to hire, he didn't win any Super Bowls with Aaron Rodgers. And he had Aaron at an MVP level. And he lost at home in the playoffs. And yet, I guess I'm supposed to believe that Mike McCarthy is too stupid to coach the Tennessee Titans? I just can't get there. Like, again, maybe this is the safe part of me that's like, I know Mike McCarthy can coach. I don't know if Robert Saleh can coach. Maybe that's all Jets stink and that's all their problem, and he'll come here and be a good coach the way Todd Bowles has been a good coach in Tampa Bay. Maybe. But I don't know if Robert Saleh can coach. I know Mike McCarthy can coach. Can Mike McCarthy develop a quarterback? I think Aaron Rodgers is pretty good, and he developed under Mike McCarthy. Dak Prescott led the NFL in QBR under Mike McCarthy in Mike McCarthy's Tex Coast offense with McCarthy calling the plays. I hear a lot of you people complaining about the fact that Matt Nagy doesn't want to call plays. You tell me, well, I want a coach who calls the plays. He's not good enough. He doesn't call the plays. Well, Mike McCarthy in 2023 called the plays, and Dak Prescott led the NFL in QBR. So that's pretty good. In 2023, Dallas had the number 5 defense in the NFL. So I know Mike McCarthy is capable of farming out that side of the ball or being a CEO coach and having a top 10 defense in the league. So I have to ask everybody out there, what's so bad about Mike McCarthy? Somebody explain this to me. Again, I don't know if Kevin Stefanski can coach or not. He was 45-56. McCarthy has won a playoff game more recently than Kevin Stefanski has. Was it all Cleveland's fault? Is Stefanski not really that good of a coach? I don't know. But I know McCarthy can coach. So what's so bad about Mike McCarthy? And to be completely frank with you, I think it's 2 things. Number one, and I know I've said this, but it's true. You'll never hear them say this on ESPN. You'll never hear them say this on NFL Network. If I was on Sirius XM today, I would say this, and I don't know if I'd get in trouble or not. Number one, Mike McCarthy is fat. That is a problem. Regardless of whether or not that's fair. For some reason, our football society has decided that fat coaches are dumb, lazy slobs like King Curtis from Wife Swap, who eats nothing but chicken nuggets. When in fact, I think there are some pretty successful fat coaches across the history of the NFL. Mike Holmgren was fat. He's a pretty good coach. Bill Parcells was fat. Pretty good coach. Bill Belichick was fat. Pretty good coach. And that's why I think I may have to quit my job. And I may have to start the FCCA, the Fat Coaches Coalition of America. I think I may need to start it. And we are going to advocate on behalf of ugly coaches so that they can get job opportunities, so that they can be treated fairly. This is a true story. Floyd told me when he was an assistant coach, he was a defensive coordinator, he's a linebackers coach, and that when he decided that he wanted to go into management was because he felt like nobody was hiring bald coaches. He's like, there's just not a lot of bald coaches that are head coaches. And that's why he decided to go from coaching to management. And I think it's kind of true. Again, everybody thinks Matt Nagy sucks. Oh my God, he sucks. His record's basically identical to that of Mike McDaniel, but Mike McDaniel has hair, so I guess Mike McDaniel's a good coach and Matt Nagy's a bad coach. Again, how can Kevin Stefanski be some sort of savant and Mike McCarthy be too stupid to be a head coach? Give me a break. So that's the first thing, and I am going to start the FCCA, the Fat Coaches Coalition of America. The second thing, I believe, when it comes to why people knock Mike McCarthy, is because his career and accomplishments have been overshadowed by two of the NFL's biggest narcissists, maybe of all time, Aaron Rodgers and Jerry Jones. Aaron Rodgers treated Mike McCarthy like a fat schlub who was always holding him back. And Jerry Jones treated Mike McCarthy like a fat schlub whom he employed on game day as a courtesy. And in fairness to McCarthy, if you overstep with either Aaron Rodgers or Jerry Jones, they will completely disown you. Just ask Jimmy Johnson. But I think we all have a big enough sample size to know that both Aaron Rodgers and Jerry Jones are complete and total dumbasses. So maybe McCarthy should get a pass? Well, in Dallas, Mike McCarthy knew his role. You coach the team, and you help, along with Will McClay, figure out the roster, and then you find a way to convince Jerry that these ideas that you have are actually his ideas. But you're never going to be front and center because Jerry is going to be front and center on draft night, holding up the board in front of the media with big mics in there saying, oh, hold on, put that back. Same with Aaron Rodgers. You notice Aaron Rodgers never liked his coaches or never liked his general managers. Then he got to the Jets. Now he's in tears losing his coach. That's the knock on McCarthy. He's fat, and I think he was disrespected by Aaron Rodgers and Jerry Jones. Two of the biggest narcissists, if not the two biggest narcissists in the history of the NFL. So I decided, you know what I want to do? Let's compare Mike McCarthy to that of his peers. Like, let's go ahead and compare McCarthy to I got to add me to the stage. My bad, my bad, my bad. Sorry, I was yelling and screaming. Wow, you guys missed all of that. I am so sorry. I was yelling and screaming, and you guys couldn't even see it, which is unbelievable. Okay, so just to reiterate, look at the chart. McCarthy, 174, 112, and 2. He's 11 and 11 in the playoffs. Stefanski, 45 and 50. You people love Stefanski. Nagy, 34 and 31. Again, nowhere near Big Mike. McDaniel, 35 and 33. You love him. I mean, again, you people just want to drop your pants when it comes to McDaniel. Arthur Smith, 21 and 30, and Robert Saleh, 20 and 36. And this morning, I had to get on my buddy Ian Safar because I heard him on my old station say, rank his coaches, and he had McCarthy fourth and had Saleh ahead of him. Like, what the fuck has Robert Saleh ever done? What the fuck has he ever done that would make you put Robert Saleh ahead of Mike McCarthy? That I don't understand. The second thing, again, of course, is the mystery coach comparison. And you guys already know the first one because I already blew it on the stream. But again, Coach A is Mike McCarthy. He wins 61% of the time at 174, 112, and 2. He makes the playoffs 60% of the time, and he has one Super Bowl. Coach B wins 61% of the time. He makes the playoffs 66% of the time instead of 60, and he also has one Super Bowl. Coach B is... Oh, that's right. John Harbaugh. The great John Harbaugh. The guy that you people were sitting there and saying, oh my God, Jared, we got to have him gas up the jet, give him $100 million, do whatever he said, do whatever he wants, give it to him, go do it. Roughly the same resume. Now, Harbaugh is skinnier, but roughly the same resume. How about coach comparison number 2? Again, here you go. This is Coach B. McCarthy wins 61% of the time. Coach B wins 61% of the time. Now, Coach B makes it to the Super Bowl 78 or to the playoffs 78% of the time. McCarthy only makes it 60%. So Coach B is a little bit better, and they each have one Super Bowl. Any guesses as to who Coach B is? Coach B is Sean McVay. So Sean McVay, who might be the best coach in the entire NFL, wins at roughly the same clip that Mike McCarthy did. And that's without Jerry Jones getting in the way. How about this mystery coach? Coach B only wins 55% of the time. Coach B only makes the playoffs 56% of the time. Again, McCarthy wins 61% of the time and makes the playoffs 60% of the time. And Coach B does not have a Super Bowl. Does anybody want to guess who Coach B is? Does anybody want to guess here? Again, wins 56% of the time, makes the playoffs 56% of the time. Kyle Shanahan is Coach B. Now, here's what's crazy. A lot of you people want McDaniel because you want that Shanahan offense. You want a little of that secret sauce. You just want, oh my God, McDaniel, he runs the Shanahan system and he's so great. And he, in a league in which Bill Parcells said you are what your record says you are, Mike McCarthy has a better resume than Kyle Shanahan. And I know that Kyle Shanahan has poo-pooed some of those Super Bowls away. And you do have to be pretty good in order to poo-poo the Super Bowl away. But at the same time, he hadn't won any of them. Big Mike did. How about this one? Coach B wins 59% of the time. Again, McCarthy wins 61% of the time, so Coach B wins more. Or should be McCarthy wins more, Coach A. Coach B's made the playoffs 57% of the time. Big Mike's made it 60%. And Coach B does not have a Super Bowl. Any guesses? That would be the great Mike Vrabel. The great Mike Vrabel. Again, oh my God, Jared, we never should have fired Mike Vrabel. What were we doing? Why can't we? McCarthy's resume says, well, hate to say it, but better than Vrabel. Okay, how about this one? In this case, this coach wins 63% of the time. Again, McCarthy wins 61% of the time. So Coach B wins 63% to 61%. Coach B also has made the playoffs 61% of the time, which technically is better than Mike McCarthy 60% of the time. And Coach B also has one Super Bowl. Who do you think this could be? Coach B is Sean Payton, the number 1 seed right now in the AFC playoffs. So you guys wanted John Harbaugh, his resume very similar to McCarthy. Right now, the number 1 coach in the AFC, Sean Payton, very similar resume to that of Mike McCarthy. The number 2 coach in the AFC, Mike Vrabel, has a lesser resume than Mike McCarthy. How about this one? McCarthy compared to Coach B. McCarthy wins 61% of the time. Coach B wins 59% of the time. Now, Coach B did make the playoffs 71% of the time, while Big Mike only made it 60% of the time, and they each have one Super Bowl. So this coach wins less in the regular season than McCarthy, but did technically make the playoffs more than McCarthy. Mike Holmgren. That's a Hall of Fame coach right there. And go look at his coaching tree. I think it's pretty good. And last one, here on the mystery coach comparison, when it comes to Mike McCarthy's resume. This coach wins 57% of the time. This coach makes it to the playoffs 53% of the time. And this coach has 2 Super Bowls. So he wins less than McCarthy, and he makes the playoffs less than McCarthy, but he has 1 more Super Bowl than Mike McCarthy. So there is that. Who do you think it could be? Oh, that would be the Hall of Famer Bill Parcells. Now, let me ask you all this question. And I mean this with total sincerity. If Bill Parcells was on the market, the big tuna, if he was on the market, would you say, you know what? We don't need Bill Parcells. Bring in Robert Saleh and his 20-36 record. I know you wouldn't do that. I know you would not do that. So, again, I'm not here to tell you that McCarthy be my top choice, but how can you guys act like Kevin Stefanski is so much better than Mike McCarthy? That I don't understand. Again, we don't know any of these guys. And so for that, I struggle with. And I'm not saying they have to hire Mike McCarthy. But I keep hearing about how great Mike McDaniel is. And I keep hearing Ian tell me they should hire Robert Saleh and Kevin Stefanski. And I'm sorry, but compared to Mike McCarthy, Mike McDaniel, Matt Nagy, Robert Saleh, Kevin Stefanski, and Arthur Smith ain't shit. So that's the first thing. And in fact, all the coaches that you people hate are either fat or bald. You people, and I don't understand why, but you people hate Arthur Smith, fat with an ugly mustache. Mike McCarthy, sometimes, with all due respect to him, I get a little confused with him and Orca. And Matt Nagy, well, he is skinny, but he's bald, and his jawline is not really defined. And I don't think he's over on the side with a latte, the way that McVay and McDaniel and Shanahan and Zach Taylor and Callahan and all those guys are. You hate them. You people hate Arthur Smith, hate Matt Nagy, hate Mike McCarthy, but you love Mike McDaniel? I think that's ridiculous. So I am starting the FCCA, the Fat Coaches Coalition of America. And at the FCCA, we will demand that NFL teams have to interview 2 fat or ugly coaches in person. No Zoom. It's got to be in person because they could just turn the camera off and not even have to look at the Zoom. And when you have these in-person interviews with your fat or ugly candidates, you have to give them at least 1 snack break every 45 minutes with no judgment. And I will be taking this to Roger Goodell on behalf of the FCCA, the Fat Coaches Coalition of America, and I will be arguing in favor of guys like Mike McCarthy and Arthur Smith. But again, I don't understand when it comes to McCarthy and his resume. I don't understand how, again, we can sit here and say, oh, man, Robert Saleh, that guy, he's a winner. Well, other than the fact that he was a loser. Well, you know, it was a disaster in New York, and Aaron Rodgers, he did this. Really? Because Big Mike coached Aaron Rodgers, too. And Big Mike had problems with Aaron Rodgers. But it didn't make the Packers a complete tire fire the way that Aaron Rodgers made the Jets. I wonder why. So that's the first thing. I do want to get to some of your reaction. First, though, I want to tell you about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And I absolutely love Hiller. Hiller takes great care of my home. They can do the exact same for you. I've told the story this week. They came in here and I was like, hey, we need to put a humidifier in our home. And they went up to the attic and they looked at the HVAC system and they were like, it's going to be really hard for us to do this. It's going to be really expensive. And they said to me, what you should do, go to Home Depot and get a couple of in-room humidifiers, put one in your room, put one in Jack's room, and see how that works out. And if you're still having problems with the moisture, then we can put it in here, but it's going to be very invasive and very expensive. Instead of sitting there and saying, we're going to be able to get a bunch of money out of this guy, they treated me with honesty, which is what they'll do with you too. And I know this because they treat me with honesty. I see it all the time. 100% satisfaction of happy you'll be or the service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work performed, Hiller will make it right. Learn more at happyhiller.com with professional, experienced, trustworthy techs. They'll come into your home and leave it clean and better than they found it. And again, I can't stress how honest they are. Learn more at happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. That's Hiller. Call the Happy Face Truck today. Okay, back to your reaction here on the Big Mike front. Again, when it comes to Mike McCarthy, I am convinced Titan fans, the NFL, the media, they put him down because he's fat. Because he's fat, and when you see somebody who's fat, you think they're a lazy slob, whether or not that is true. And I think Aaron Rodgers treated Mike McCarthy like he was a dumbass, and I think Jerry Jones treated Mike McCarthy like he was a dumbass. But you know what? I bet Aaron would have a different perspective right now, having lived through life without Mike McCarthy. Matt LaFleur in a playoff game standing on the sideline, he can't even count. And I'm sure that's something that Aaron would say, you know, maybe I didn't have it that bad when it came to Big Mike. So, again, let's get to some of your reaction here. Brian says, my reason I don't want McCarthy is he hasn't won a Super Bowl in 14 years. He's a one and done in the playoffs. Well, Brian, you know who actually isn't one and done in the playoffs? Mike McCarthy. You want to know how I know Mike McCarthy's not one and done in the playoffs? Because Mike McCarthy has won 11 games in the playoffs. He is 11-11. You know who's one and done in the playoffs? Mike McDaniel, 0-2. Matt Nagy, 0-2. Kevin Stefanski, 1-2. That's one and done in the playoffs. Mike McCarthy ended Tom Brady's career by winning the first Dallas Cowboy road playoff game in 30 years. Don't give me this stuff that Mike McCarthy doesn't win playoff games. He lost that game to the Packers, but he does win playoff games. Sean McVay has been one and done in the playoffs too. He lost to the Atlanta Falcons one year. Joe says, I'm all in on McCarthy. He's basically Harbaugh. Again, I don't know these guys. So when it comes to like what their personality's like, that's why I'm excited. We're going to talk to Matt Overton in 5 minutes. He played for Mike McCarthy. But when it comes to that, I don't know their personalities. But as far as their resumes are concerned, yes, they're very similar. And again, the knock on McCarthy is, well, he only won 1 Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. Okay. And John Harbaugh didn't win any Super Bowls with Lamar Jackson. So which one do you value more there? Hey, Aaron. That's how it's going to be. Aaron says, the Titans will choose the wrong guy for head coach. I don't know why we keep having hope. I really don't have any hope. I got to tell you, my gut tells me, and I know I should not form an opinion on somebody that I do not know. My gut tells me they're going to hire Stefanski. I've been thinking Nagy for forever, but I've just heard too many people that cover the team that just completely ignore Nagy, and I'm a little surprised by that. And I heard Easton say he thinks it's going to be Saleh. TD said he thinks it's going to be Saleh. Maybe I can live with Arthur, Nagy, or McCarthy. I mean, if they hire Robert Saleh. I hope it works. I don't know Robert Saleh from a jar of Vicks, but I'm not very confident. McDaniel and Stefanski. Brett says, thoughts on Chris Shula. Don't know Chris Shula. Don't know anything about him. He might be the next Don Shula. He might be the next Mike Shula. Can't tell you. I mean, I know people tell me he's great, but that happens all the time with coordinators. People told me Brian Callahan was great. I don't know what to make of that. That's, again, when people fall in love with these coordinators, I don't get it. When they're like, oh, my God, Chris Shula would be so good for the Titans. What do you know about Chris Shula? I don't know anything about him. He might be better than Mike McCarthy, but I don't know anything about him. And I don't know how you guys know anything about him. One guy says, Jared, in your unbiased opinion, how would you sell that Matt Nagy is a better fit for the Titans than Mike McDaniel? So I guess I haven't really been tasked with that, but if I had to pick between the two, I would pick Matt Nagy. I think when it comes to Matt Nagy, the way I would sell Matt Nagy is I would say Matt Nagy went 34-31 with Mitch Trubisky and Justin Fields starting 88% of the games he coached. Those guys fucking blow. You know it. I know it. We all know it. And there's not a coach in the world that can make Justin Fields a good player at this point. He stinks. That's pretty impressive. So former coach of the year, Mike McDaniel's not a former coach of the year. Not that I think that really means anything. And here's the other thing when it comes to Mike McDaniel. A lot of people, for some reason, detract Matt Nagy's 2018 performance because they were led by their defense, Vic Fangio coaching the defense, and they say, well, he was carried by Vic Fangio. Okay. Well, Mike McDaniel had Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator too, and it didn't work out between them. And they mutually parted, and Fangio went to the Eagles. Somebody tell me what happened there. Because I know Vic Fangio is a pretty good coordinator. And when it comes to being the head coach, you're in charge of the coordinators. And if you can't get along with Fangio and the other guy can and can win because he does get along with Fangio, that is a red flag. I think they have very similar resumes. And I think Nagy's more of a straight shooter, more genuine, less intimidated by the players than McDaniel. One person says it did help that Aaron Rodgers during his prime was his quarterback, though the Green Bay had a very sensible approach to building a roster. Green Bay did not spend in free agency under Ted Thompson the way they spend under Brian Gutekunst now. That said, a lot of people will say, again, well, he had Aaron Rodgers. Right. But he developed Aaron Rodgers. John Harbaugh had Lamar Jackson. A lot of these good coaches had good quarterbacks. Sean Payton had Drew Brees. He won a Super Bowl, just like Sean Payton won a Super Bowl, just like Tony Dungy won a Super Bowl. You know what? I've thought about it again. Tony Dungy sucks. Tony Dungy only won one Super Bowl. He sucks. Fuck Tony Dungy. He's no good. He only won one Super Bowl with Peyton Manning. Jess says TD's list was concerning yesterday. Do I need to text TD? And do I need to ask TD? And do I need to say, what was your list? Somebody tell me what TD's list was. Okay, with that, I do want to get to something I'm very, very excited about here on our program. Okay, joined now by Matt Overton, former Pro Bowl long snapper, played with a bunch of different teams, including the Titans, under the great Mike Vrabel. And he also played with the Dallas Cowboys under Mike McCarthy. Bones Fossil was your special teams coach when you were in Dallas. So I decided I want to bring you on today, Matt, because I am convinced of something. I look at the resume of Mike McCarthy, and I see somebody who has a very similar resume to Sean Payton, very similar resume to John Harbaugh, and yet people are not treating him that way. And I think it might be because he's a little overweight, and I think it might be because when he was in Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers was the star. When he was in Dallas, Jerry Jones was the star. But I'm not convinced he's a bad coach. You played for him, so let's just start there. Your thoughts on Mike McCarthy, the coach?
Yeah, I mean, I was there the 2022 season, so we went to the divisional round, lost to the 49ers on the road. And my experience with Coach McCarthy was great. Kind of the old school coach, been in the league a long time. Obviously, a lot of history with him. The success he had in Green Bay, and quite frankly, had a lot of success in Dallas when he was there as well. And so I kind of liked how he ran the ship over there. Again, kind of old school guy, let his coordinators coach, let his coaches coach. He demanded a lot from everybody. But again, when you're in Jerry's world, you know, there's a lot of things that are probably over his head that he doesn't have the reins on. But I really appreciated my time with him. I respect him a lot as a head coach. And we had a good team in Dallas that year. And so obviously we fell short as 31 other teams do every single year. But yeah, I would have to imagine that Coach McCarthy should be at the top of the list for a lot of the teams. And you mentioned that maybe he's not the sexy name out there like these other guys are, but when it comes to looking at the history, his track record, I mean, it's right up there with the greats.
So how would you compare him as far as the CEO coach is concerned? Now, we know that in his last year, and you weren't there for his last year, but in his last year, Kellen Moore went to the Chargers and he took over kind of calling, or maybe Kellen Moore went to I can't remember. I think he went to the Chargers, and he took over calling the plays with Dak, and they ran the Texas Coast offense, and Dak led the NFL in QBR. But as far as you talk about letting his coaches coach, from a CEO type coach approach, what was that like watching Mike McCarthy coach?
I mean, I'm the long snapper, man. I'm not in those meetings. I'm not behind the scenes like a lot of these guys are, like, you know, your Dak Prescotts and your CD Lambs and your Micah Parsons. And so I'm a very behind the scenes kind of guy when it comes to the way things operate and roll on a day-to-day basis and throughout the season. So, but just from my observation as a specialist, I think the one cool thing that we get to do is we get to observe quite a bit, whether it's in the locker room, traveling. Like I said, we're not in a lot of those bigger meetings because we have our own little special teams meeting. Then we have an individual meeting, which is like 5 minutes long, at most 15 minutes. And then we kind of go do our own thing. But with that being said, you know, the three of us get to observe quite a lot. And I think specialists have a good pulse on the roster and how things are going. Obviously, when you're winning, things are great, but you can kind of still sense how things are going in the locker room because you hang out in the locker room quite a bit because you don't have as much time in the meeting rooms as the other guys do. But like I said, I came in at week 4, week 5 in the 2022 season. So I was a late addition and then spent the next 11 weeks with them. And from my standpoint, I really appreciated how he ran it. Never got too high, never got too low. Obviously in Dallas, every week is a big week because everybody, you know, the expectation there is so high. When I was there, you know, we had to go on the road the very first week against Tom Brady and the Bucks. And Dallas had not won on the road in the playoffs since I was one of like the 6 guys they put up on the board. You know, I was born in 1985 and they put some crazy stat up that Dallas had not won a road game in the playoffs since who knows how long. It was me. Who else they put up there? Gosh dang, the offensive tackle that was with the
Tyron Smith.
What's that?
Tyron Smith, Jason Peters.
Yeah, Jason Peters. Yeah, Tyron Smith. So there was like I said, less than 5 or so guys who were alive at that point in time when Dallas had won the last road playoff game. We went and took Tom Brady out, and that was his last game. So we got over that milestone. But I mean, leading up to that, there was so much pressure. When I was there, we never lost at home. But again, going back to Mike McCarthy, a guy that not a rah-rah guy, pretty short, straight to the point. Again, lets his coaches coach. I mean, Bones Fossil probably talked to the team more than Mike McCarthy did, in the sense of like these drawn-out animated meetings and whatnot. And so when I think of like the Tennessee Titans potentially going after somebody like Mike McCarthy, I instantly think of John Fossil, Bones Fossil, like the special teams coordinator. Like those two have a history together. And Fossil had a much more impact on the roster. And it wasn't just special teams. He was like almost like a quality control coach for the offense. And he was running, he was on the mic during team periods. And he was very much a part of the operation from an offense, defense, special team standpoint. And I would have to expect, if there is any tie here to Tennessee, that Bones Fossil will be tied at the hip with Mike McCarthy, and I know you've given your flowers and praise to Bones Fossil. I think he's one of the greatest special team coaches to ever have been in the NFL, and he has a respect across the league. Should be a guy that potentially could climb the ranks and become a head coach one day. But I would have to imagine if Mike McCarthy does land here, Bones is going to stay and hopefully be tied at the hip like they were before in Dallas. And, so I think that, that's like the easiest kind of low hanging fruit right there, that as far as like what would make, Mike McCarthy want to come here, maybe him and Bones together could really orchestrate a good coaching staff, rebuild this roster, and just kind of, raise the expectations and standards here.
What was it like in the team meetings when McCarthy would be there in front of the team, a Monday morning after a loss, or a Wednesday as you get ready for the new week? Again, you're the long snapper, so you're there. I don't think anybody is sitting there saying, hey, is Overton taking notes in the meeting? Is Overton paying attention? Is he? But I do wonder, as somebody who observed it, I've heard the Titans say they don't care if they get a play calling coach. They don't care if it's an offensive coach. They don't care if it's a defensive coach. They want a leader. And they said it doesn't have to be an alpha, it doesn't have to be Mike Vrabel, but they want a leader. So when you sat in those team meetings, and it's Dax in there, and Tony Pollard's in there, and CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons, and Matt Overton, what was that like, that leadership element of Mike McCarthy?
Well, I mean, I was in Dallas. So when you're in Dallas and you have that star on your helmet, I think there's a lot of distractions outside of that building. And so from the perspective, like, as I take a step back and think about my time in Dallas, like, there was some dysfunction there. And I think that just comes with the nature of being a Dallas Cowboy. Guys get in trouble, speeding tickets, being late, just other laundry list of things. But, that's fairly common for the most part across the league. Nothing too egregious. But I would say in Dallas, there was, there were some distractions that maybe Mike McCarthy and his staff couldn't quite keep the reins on tight for. And that comes down to, character of the roster for the most part, right? Like, you have a guy like Dak Prescott, who was the face of the franchise, young Micah Parsons. You had DeMarcus Lawrence. Jason Peters came in that year as, 40-year-old, a 17, 18-year vet. Tyron Smith, you had Zach Martin. So you had a lot of guys there. You had Zeke. They brought Zeke. Zeke was still there before he'd gone out to the Patriots. Tony Pollard. So you had a lot of guys on that team that had been there for quite some time, that could keep things in check there. And so I wouldn't necessarily think of, because I played for Vrabel too. So like, that's a guy you do not want to piss off. I don't imagine that like guys kind of see Mike McCarthy as that same type of character and a coach. But I do think for the most part, the vast majority does hold someone like Mike McCarthy to a high, respect level, just because of how long he's been in the league, done it at a high level for a long time, had a lot of success. And so, I mean, if they're gonna, when it comes to, battling through the wins and losses and the highs and lows in the NFL, I think Mike McCarthy would be one of those guys that can keep the ship afloat, and just keep going and treading in the right direction and bounce back from a tough loss. Again, in Dallas, everything is under the microscope 100 times worse than most teams, just because of the media and Jerry Jones and America's team and this, that, and the other. I mean, for the most part, media was in our locker room every single day, way more than any other place I've ever been. And I've been on 6 teams. So it is kind of a circus over there, and not in a bad way. But like I said, having my experience with McCarthy in Dallas may be a lot different than what it would be potentially here in Tennessee.
One thing that I have a theory, I want your opinion on this, which is because, again, when I compare Mike McCarthy to Sean Payton, it's very similar. In fact, here, I'll flash the graphic up right here. When you compare these two coaches, win percentage, Payton a little bit more, playoffs in the seasons, almost the same, Super Bowls, the exact same. When you compare him to John Harbaugh, it's very similar as well. And yet nobody is clamoring to go get Mike McCarthy. And my theory is it's because Mike McCarthy's overweight. And that's why I'm going to start a new business, the Fat Coaches Coalition of America. And we are going to demand that the NFL bring in, you have to interview 2 external ugly candidates. So they can be fat, they can be bald, it doesn't matter. But you have to interview 2 external ugly candidates, and you have to give them a snack break every 45 minutes throughout the interview process, and you cannot watch them eat, and you cannot judge. And I say that jokingly, though, but I do think there is some sort of stereotype in today's game that the skinny, defined jawline young offensive coach is a guru, like Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan or Zach Taylor or Mike McDaniel, and that the fat coach, which used to be Mike Holmgren, Andy Reid, there used to be very good fat coaches, Bill Parcells. I just think that now people look at it like, oh, no, that guy's kind of a slob. He's not really smart. He's not really. And I think that's what's hurting McCarthy, to be completely honest. Your thoughts?
Well, he's been out for a year too. So, if the headline were that he just got fired from Dallas 2 weeks ago or whatever the case may be, I'm sure the buzz for Mike McCarthy would be high up there because of his track record. He spent this whole year off, been on McAfee's show quite a bit as a weekly guest or daily guest, whatever the case may be. But I think for the fact that he's been kind of in the shadows for the past 12 months, he's not at the top of the radar for most, or at least on the Twitter or X or on social media. They're not posting about Mike McCarthy because it's not his name doesn't really have a buzz right now, just because of the fact that he's been out of the league for a year. But again, it's like,
didn't hurt Vrabel though. Didn't hurt Sean Payton.
Well, sure. But, at the end of the day, like you said, I think with Mike, right, he could have easily probably interviewed last year for some jobs. I know, like maybe New Orleans or whatever, but he probably did the smart way like Vrabel did, and sat out a year. I think, did Vrabel go back to Ohio State or something? I don't know.
He was like a special advisor to the Browns.
Yeah, to the Browns, right? He did something interim, just to kind of keep his feet wet, but not tied to a long whatever opportunity. He didn't tie himself down. And so for Mike McCarthy, he was just sitting back doing a little media, doing McAfee show. And so maybe he just kind of fell in the shadows. And, Vrabel, I think for the most part, I think the Vrabel factor, that was kind of a shock and awe that they would fire him at the stage of his career. Relatively young, high fire guy, big personality, alpha male. Sean Payton, another guy that's another old school guy that you don't want to mess with, and so I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe there's some optics to it that is just not appealing as the Sean McVays and the Nick Siriannis and all these other coaches who are young and they were a coordinator and they just get
Skinny.
six-pack abs, right? And they just get, thrown up into the head coaching spot right away. Obviously, those coaches have had a lot of success, but that's the NFL too, man. Like you think about the trend, it's been over the past decade. Everything is younger, cheaper. They want the youngest head coach. I mean, Sean McVay was he was an offensive assistant when I was in the UFL with the Florida Tuskers, straight out of Miami of Ohio, under Jay Gruden. I mean, this guy came out of nowhere. And when Jay got the job after the UFL season with the Redskins, Sean McVay went there. And then within 3 or 4 years, I mean, he was now the tight ends coach. And then he was the assistant to the head coach. And then he gets the Rams job, right? I mean, it's pretty crazy. Like Sean McVay, like I remember sitting in front of him on the bus talking about college ball. And this is little tiny blonde hair, blue eye kid, like just knew a lot about football. Like, and 10 years later, he's head coach in the league and, winning Super Bowls and all that kind of stuff. But like, I mean, I think that the NFL has always had that trend, whether you're a player or coach, younger, it's just kind of become a young man's game in the sense, and look with the kids in college, like they talk about Anthony Richardson. Oh, he's only 21 years old. He's so young and all this kind of stuff. And it doesn't necessarily pan out from the player's standpoint. But yeah, I think you're onto something there. I still think he's an attractive, solid head coach, man. Could shut off some LBs, and he knows that. I mean, he would joke and snark about it all the time in meetings and all that kind of stuff, or when we're at team dinners or whatnot. But the dude gives some good Christmas gifts, so I know whatever team does land Mike McCarthy, they will get a nice Christmas gift from him and his wife, right there in your locker.
What'd you get?
I think we got this really, really nice like foot massager.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Last one for you, Matt Overton with us. If I owned the Titans and I called you and I said, Matt, who should I hire to be the head coach? And all the names that are out there, McDaniel, Stefanski, Arthur Smith, so on. It's a Robert Saleh and McCarthy. If I said, hey, you played in the NFL for a long time and I trust you and I know you and who do you think I should hire? What would you say?
I think if the roster was better, starting with the quarterback position, and I know Cam Ward has a lot to keep improving on, and didn't have the greatest rookie year, but still showed some promise. Because when I think of Mike McCarthy, I think of all the quarterbacks that he's had. Right, he's had some just bona fide starters and elite players at that position. The roster from top to bottom is maybe not what he is used to or accustomed to. And again, I don't know like the early phases of Mike McCarthy. Like I don't know what the roster initially looked like in Green Bay when he got that job. Obviously, he had the quarterback solidified. In Dallas, obviously, he had a really strong roster, and they kind of kept bolstering it each and every year. So when I think of like Mike McCarthy, I don't know if like that necessarily fits just because from a roster standpoint. But maybe he's willing to take a young team and rebuild it and put his stamp on it. But then I don't know if Cam really fits what he wants to do either. So I don't quite know. Everyone's talking about Saleh and Stefanski as like maybe the two top guys that are in position to really take this job if there's a solidified offer from the Titans. But I would have I was on the radio, listening to the radio this morning because I knew I was coming on your show, and Mike McCarthy wasn't even on most of those guys like top 4. And so I would have to, in my opinion, I'm definitely putting Mike McCarthy in my top 2 or top 3 without a doubt. Now I really don't know what's the best fit really, because these are kind of these are all for the most part candidates who have been head coaches and it didn't really work out. So like I think about Art Smith, like he was our OC when I was here. That by nature, oh, that sounds good. Bring Arthur Smith back, right? Really good offensive coach. Wasn't great in Atlanta as a head coach. went back to Pittsburgh and did okay with Aaron Rodgers. So it's like, I don't know if that really makes sense or fits. But I would have to definitely take Mike McCarthy is for sure a top candidate just because of his history, his longevity. I mean, he wasn't just a 1-year head coach or a 2-year head coach. He was with Green Bay for a decade. He was with, Dallas for, I don't know, 6 years or whatever it was. So like, I would have to imagine that Mike McCarthy has got to be, if the Titans really want to be serious about this, and try to tread in the right direction, turn this roster around and organization around, especially with the new stadium coming in the horizon, like you get somebody like Mike McCarthy that's a proven head coach in the National Football League.
Matt Overton, of course, he longtime NFL Pro Bowler as a long snapper. He played with the Titans. He played with Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys and with a bunch of different teams. He was on that Charger team that could have tied and made the playoffs and decided not to tie and to miss the playoffs. Of course, he hosts the Stay Ready podcast, which I've been on, which I absolutely love, and nailed the Brian Callahan hiring 2 years ago. And also, be sure to
for you, buddy.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it did. Be sure to check out Matt Overton on social media. Again, one of the premier long snappers when it comes to kind of, I'd say, the brand of the long snapper. That's at Matt Overton _LS on Twitter. Go ahead, give him a follow. Matt, thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the games this weekend.
All right, brother. Take care, man.
Yep. Okay. Matt Overton joining us on the program, and I appreciate him for doing that. I've been on his show. He's been on my show now, and I wanted to hear what it's like to actually play for Mike McCarthy. So there you go. And I do wonder what you guys thought about. Leave a comment below. I've got to get better at that as far as like the YouTubing is concerned. Leave a comment below what you made of what Matt Overton had to say about playing for Mike McCarthy. Okay, I do want to talk about some playoffs here before we get to our picks. We have to start with the great Mike Vrabel taking on the Houston Texans in the first game on Sunday. I'll make my pick in just a second, but I've said I think the Texans are going to the Super Bowl. And I think this Texan defense, they remind me of the Baltimore Ravens with Ray Lewis, the 2000 Ravens defense. That's the best defense that's been out there since I've been around. And I'm just telling you, this Texan defense, it reminds me of that Ravens defense. They've got two of the best edge rushers in football, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. I mean, just look at the guys that they bring in off the bench as part of their rotation up front. Danico Autry, we know he's pretty good. Vrabel knows he's pretty good. And Sheldon Rankins, we know he's pretty good. They've got a great safety in Jalen Petrie. They've got the best corner maybe in the NFL. That defense is fucking legit. And so when it comes to Vrabel, this weekend, we'll see if the great Mike Vrabel is really all that great. You have to give them credit. They won all the games this year that they were supposed to win against bad teams. And they did beat the crap out of the Chargers, even though I still feel like the real story about that game is that Justin Herbert is not an elite quarterback, and no matter how much I thought he was going to be or was, he just can't win at that level. This one to me is about Vrabel. Because if they beat the Texans with that defense, and that defense is nasty, if they beat the Texans, then there's nothing wrong you can say about Mike Vrabel. There's nothing bad. You cannot. And this comes from a guy like me who certainly at the end thought that Vrabel had run its course and it was time for him to go. And I didn't think Vrabel would have this kind of success. If they beat the Texans with that defense as good as I think it is, then I think you got to tip your cap to Mike Vrabel. Say, yep, he said he wanted full control of the team and they should have given it to him, and they're stupid for not doing it. And even though Todd Downing, Tim Kelly, his coaching staff here, water under the bridge. He really will be the great Mike Vrabel if they win that game. Second thought would be the late game tomorrow, San Francisco and Seattle. And when I saw the news that Sam Darnold was questionable with an oblique, I thought, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. Let me say this. When it comes to Sam Darnold, I am holding my ass because I'm so nervous. I am holding my ass with how Sam Darnold is going to play. So nervous. Now, that said, I was holding my ass a couple weeks ago when they played the Rams on Thursday Night Football, and Sam Darnold was incredible down the stretch. TDG. And they beat the Rams to lead the driver's seat, to get into the driver's seat for the number 1 seed. And then when they played the 49ers on the road at San Francisco, winner gets the 1 seed, I was holding my ass saying, please, Sam, don't fuck it up. Because even though I never thought Sam Darnold was going to be number 1 seed in Seattle, I know that if Darnold doesn't play well, every single one of you is going to be like, ah, ha, 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 ha. So he passed the first test against the Rams. He passed the second test against the Niners. And now he gets the Niners again. And now he's hurt? Oh, Sam. Oh, Sam, don't do it to me. And I said this with Easton the other day, yesterday on the program. I go, when they played, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like watching the games last weekend, I was like, come on, Panthers. Come on, Carolina. Come on, Philly. Because I didn't want any part of the Rams and the 49ers again. And I am rooting for the Seahawks. Just so I can look at you guys. If he wins this game, I don't care what happens in the NFC title game. If he wins this game, then TDG, I'm looking at you, brother. If he wins this game, you got to give him his due. You can't say Sam Fool's Gold Darnold. We'll see what happens when he gets to the playoffs, because he's essentially been playing playoff games the last 2 weeks, and now this week is for sure the playoffs. If he wins this game, you got to give him his due, no matter what happens in the NFC title game. So, a little nervous with that. With that, it's time to get to our six-pack picks here on the program. By the way, this guy says nobody drops their pants faster than Jared does for Sam Darnold in the fucking Seahawks. First of all, forget about the Seahawks. I don't care about the Seahawks. The only reason I care about the Seahawks is because Sam Darnold's their quarterback. This is all about the fact that I told you people the Titans should sign Sam Darnold, and you people told me that he sucked, and he doesn't suck, and he's going to go out there and prove it. That's what this is about. This is about, if I ran the Titans, I'd have a better record than Mike Borgonzi because I would have signed Sam Darnold, and you all know it. Okay, speaking of my predictions, my picks have not been very good this year. And so now it's playoff time. And let's just go ahead and get right to it as far as our picks are concerned. Six-pack picks so far this season, 41-60. Holy shit. You know, I actually had made picks, but I didn't make them on the show like last week. And I think that's because that Chad Brinker nugget came out, or whenever that Chad Brinker nugget came out, I'm like, we didn't make the picks. And we didn't make the picks last week because I didn't do the show on Friday. So with that, we start with the national championship game. Monday night, ESPN 6:30, Miami versus Indiana, Hard Rock Stadium, a home game. I said on Twitter when Miami had already punched their ticket and Indiana was just beating the shit out of Oregon. And I said the line's going to open at 7.5. I bet it gets bet up to 9. It's been bet up to 8.5. Miami is going to get their asses kicked. Indiana. I said I'd lay Indiana up to 14.5. This Indiana team is an all-time great team. They are up there with Joe Burrow and LSU. They are up there with the Miami Hurricanes. I'm sorry. I mean, it's easy to get on Kalen DeBoer and say, oh, my God, he's not Nick Saban when you get butt-fucked by Indiana. But the fact that Indiana butt-fucked Alabama and then butt-fucked Oregon in back-to-back weeks, that tells me all I need to know. Give me the Hoosiers. I'm not even sure this one is going to be all that close. Okay, Buffalo at Denver, the first game, Saturday. That game, 3:30 CBS. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo. We'll see if Tony Romo can call the game a little bit better. Oh, Jim, oh, my God. You know, I said this during around, I think, Thanksgiving, I was doing Mad Dog with Jeff Schwartz, and I was like, can you close your eyes and envision Jim Nantz handing the trophy to Bo Nix? And I'm like, no, I cannot envision Jim Nantz handing the trophy to Bo Nix. And I said, can you envision the Patriots? And it's like, no, can't do that. And I go, you know what's going to happen? At the end of the day, even though Buffalo's team sucks, outside of Josh Allen and Deion Dawkins, and Buffalo's coach sucks, I think it's going to be, well, it was a great season for the Broncos, Tony, but Buffalo is moving back to the AFC Championship game. Right now, Denver is a 1.5-point favorite. Give me the Bills plus 1.5. I think Buffalo wins the game, and I got to roll with them. Now, this one is personal. San Francisco at Seattle, 7 o'clock. Seattle is a -7. And it's personal because the game is on Fox and because Tom Brady with the Raiders said, oh, no, we don't want Sam Darnold. So we're going to trade a third-round pick. We're going to pay more money for Geno Smith, and we're going to win 3 games. Way to go, Brady. What do you think of Sam Darnold now? I'm taking Seattle to win, but holy shit, I'm nervous about it. I think 7's too much. I think this is going to be a closer game. I think the 12s will pull it out for Seattle. Home field there is a very big deal. I'll take Seattle, but I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park, and I hate the fact that they have to play them right after they just played and just got their asses kicked. So I'll take San Fran plus 7, but I do think Seattle will win the game. Okay, Sunday, 2 o'clock, ESPN ABC. The Houston Texans at New England. The great Mike Vrabel and the Patriots are -3. Give me the Texans. I think the Texans are going to win outright. I do not know if DeMeco Ryans has been able to have the conversation that I think he needs to have. But the conversation needs to be, CJ, manage the game. Run, punt. Run, punt. Run. Let's take a deep shot to Higgins or Noel. Run, punt. Now, Drake May's great, and Drake May be able to beat that, but I'm going to make Drake May beat my defense. I am not putting the ball. If CJ plays the way he played Monday night, they're going to get run out of the building. I don't think DeMeco is going to let that happen. And it's a hard conversation to have with a young quarterback who's your franchise to say, hey, buddy, chill out, hand the ball off, don't turn it over, go out there and play like Trent Dilfer. But that defense is so good. If they do that, they will win. If CJ turns the ball over, they will lose. I'm going to go with Houston because of that defense. You guys keep talking about Nico Collins. Again, fuck the offense. This is about the defense. That defense is legit. Sunday evening football. LA at Chicago, 5:30 Sunday. LA -3.5. I'll take the Rams. I think Chicago. You guys talk about fool's gold with Sam Darnold. I think Chicago is fool's gold. I think the Rams are legit. So unfortunately, and look, if Seattle wins tomorrow night, I'll be cheering so hard for Caleb in Chicago. But I don't buy it. I think we'll have Seattle and the Rams in the NFC title game. I'll take the Rams. I think they'll win, and I think they'll cover the 3.5. That's it for us. We're out of here. Everybody, great. Have a great weekend. We'll see where the Titans coaching search goes. And if there is a Titans coaching hire or any big news, we will pop on like I have said we will always do, which I am so thankful that we're able to do that. Everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Everybody be safe. And we will, unless something happens, we will see everybody at 2 o'clock like we like to do on Monday.